We're ready. Super groovy.
Oh, a Zoom reaction and a speech bubble. I want one. No one needed to give me that idea. That and can I screen share?
And I screen
Yeah.
share. So honestly, I love Zoom. I think it's great at what it does, but I really don't totally understand why it has continued to go the route of like locking down the screen share. Whereas Teams, I guess it's because it's an organizational perspective, it just allows everyone to screen share. I think at this point we're pretty safe from Zoom bombers. People have better things to do. Everybody should be able to share the screen. Yeah, that's just my soapbox. I'm stepping down now.
We can put that soapbox in a little Zoom thing and then you can just like deploy it.
Amen.
Welcome,
Okay, Subi.
everyone. We're going to go ahead and kick it off. My name is Sue Bauer. I am the room moderator for this session, and you can already tell by our three pinned attendees that we are going to have a great session with their presentation. They're going to be presenting for us AI Potluck. Everybody bring something to the table. So thank you all for being here, and I turn it over to you.
Yay! So starting off with this, guys, thank you, Sue, for the wonderful introduction. I am Charlotte Jones Roberts. With me, I have the lovely Grace Kaletsky-Maisel and Rebecca McNulty. She didn't get the memo that we're supposed to have two names. And we are all instructional designers from the University of Central Florida. To kick this off, I know that people are still trailing in, and that's typical of a presentation like this. We are going to ask a question about feelings. So in true AI form, please do not get too attached to the numbers of these little robots. But I invite you to share in the chat which robot represents your overall feelings towards generative AI integration. And please, please, please specify whether you mean the blue 3 or the yellow 3. Please share in the chat which number. We got a lot of 9s, 2. Oh, a really good mix, honestly. 7, I feel like our group's personal favorite was 7 because he represented such ambivalence. 5 is happy, lots of happy faces. This is fantastic. Okay, I do see 1, number 1, Robert. Okay, I get it. Right there with you some days. Fantastic. All right, well, I didn't see a number 6, if I am correct in saying so. All right, so overall, fam, I think we have a pretty good outlook and feeling towards generative AI. That is wonderful to hear. All right, I'm going to give it on over to Rebecca next for our little
All right.
introduction.
So now that we have our interesting AI generated numbers aside, this presentation is going to be closer to what someone might call an unconference presentation. We just wanted to get a group of brilliant people together, present excluded, and just talk about what the landscape looks like at some of our institutions. So one of the things that's happening with this rapid landscape of change at all times is just that we don't necessarily know what everyone is doing, which is going to turn into some of that effort duplication. So our little group has been spending some time just looking at resources that are available, trying to keep up with those things. And we thought, what's the best way then to start crowdsourcing some of those resources? So what we're hoping to do is discuss AI practices and policies as they're affecting higher ed, widely defined, then share some trends and pedagogy in an open document that Charlotte just placed in the chat. Now, I want to be very clear, this is not a comprehensive document. This is sort of an ad hoc capturing of the things that we've explored, just very, I don't want to say randomly, but sporadically over our other job functions. And we're really hoping to use this time to add to this document and to keep going. And then just to discuss some practical pedagogical tips for working in a world that is now generated by robots with the same number for all of our fields. So we're going to start with my little section, which is just talking about policies that we have seen as they affect a student population. So student-facing policies are generally syllabus statements. We've been looking through different varieties of those policies. I'm just going to follow up. And then we're going to move into some of the more faculty-facing policies. Those are generally applying to the things that faculty should or should not do based on institutional level, if there's any guidance there, and then move into that practical classroom assignment application, pedagogy ideas, classroom examples. So that's going to be the overview of the first part of our session. We're going to move it through it fairly quickly because we'd like to prioritize that sharing part of the potluck or hot dish, as Sue Bauer showed me in Minnesota Times. So I'm going to get us started with some institutional policies surrounding students. And what we've generally seen, and this again is just going to be an overview of some of the summaries as we've seen them, is that these policies generally define AI tools, what they are, introduce guidelines, and then introduce restrictions. So what can you use? What can't you use? How do we define what these things are? And how are we going to move forward in the semester in a world where these things do exist? Now, one resource that I'd like to share, and it's in the document when we get to that, is a report that's being done, which is Generative AI in Higher Ed, Evidence from an Analysis of Institutional Policies. And this is work that is taking those policies and really doing a fundamental analysis of where they intersect. So this is a sort of foundational place for where we've been treating some of our research. So I encourage everyone to take a look at that a little bit later. If we move to that next slide. Generally speaking, these things are framed in terms of academic integrity. I'm a little bit biased here. That's one of the questions that I'm least interested in because it's the most cut and dry, and I'm sort of that theoretical human, but it's probably the most important problem that we're dealing with in terms of faculty support. So this is where most of our conversations center, where use of AI tools is appropriate, where it needs to be restricted, and then where we attribute how we show transparently what these tools have done and how they've intersected with our own human work. And that brings us over to Grace with some faculty-facing policies.
Thanks, Rebecca. So universities are also publishing guidelines geared towards faculty use of AI. For the purposes of this project, we were looking specifically at guidelines that focus on faculty use of AI in teaching and learning, not necessarily guidance about how it's being used for research or administration or whatever other purpose. So I'm intentionally using the word guidelines here because in most of the cases that I looked at, institutions weren't necessarily using discourse like policy or more formalized language like that. Instead, it often seemed like they were putting out advice or maybe strong recommendations that left open for individual faculty to make their own decisions about how they wanted to use AI in their classrooms. So these faculty-facing guidelines often emphasized 3 different areas of consideration: usage of AI detection tools in student assessment, protecting student privacy and intellectual property, and considerations of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So regarding the detection tools, faculty guidelines often address specific tools that are designed to detect AI use in student work, such as, Turnitin, GPT-0, or Hugging Face. The dominant narrative that I saw in these guidelines seems to be that these tools are not reliable and they typically discourage faculty from using them to actually assess student work. So, for example, Carnegie-Mellon warns faculty that although companies such as Turnitin are beginning to offer AI detection services, none have been established as accurate. Then other institutions couch this advice in terms that acknowledge that plagiarism detection software has always fallen short of its promise. Case Western, for instance, stated that scholars have long debated the merits and limitations of plagiarism detection software, and these conversations continue with the advent of new AI detection tools. Regarding the privacy concerns, one 2023 study looked at institutional AI policies and they found 3 in 5 institutions caution instructors about privacy concerns with generative AI. And these fall into a few different camps. So many guidelines sort of vaguely advise faculty to help students build awareness of the risks of inputting their data into AI. Other institutions put the focus on faculty awareness, and were focused more on encouraging them to protect their students and consider how students may have privacy concerns and be uncomfortable sharing information with AI for this reason. One solution that was posed to that is that faculty should provide students with an opportunity to opt out of using generative AI when it is a required component of their course to accommodate those privacy concerns that many students may have. And then there were others that emphasized intellectual property issues. So that would be both AI's failure to consistently cite its source material and in the risk of student loss of their own intellectual property once it's been submitted to a generative AI application. Finally, institutions often provide guidance for faculty around diversity, equity, and inclusion issues and the use of generative AI. There's a lot of different issues at play here, but guidelines frequently address the ways AI tools can reinforce structural inequalities as they hold the potential to produce biased output. Underprivileged students may also face more challenges in accessing AI, especially when we're talking about an application that may have like a paid version that you need to pay for to have premium access. Then even more guidelines also sort of gave faculty advice on paying attention to accessibility barriers that could prevent students with disabilities from having full access to AI tools. So now I'm going to hand it over to Charlotte.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace. And as I was searching through the chat, I realized somebody asked at the very beginning, are these robots that we're having images of AI generated? The answer is yes. All of these were AI generated using Microsoft Copilot, which is powered by DALL-E, and that's credited at the end of our presentation, which is available in the Google Slides. Anyway, I had the fun one, y'all. I had the fun one that was talking about integrating open generative AI into assignments. Now, this is not anywhere near a comprehensive list. I know the sky is really the limit with integrating AI into assignments, but this is specifically not just any AI, but generative AI. So talking mostly what my faculty were using was ChatGPT. I worked a lot with Dr. L'Oreal Campbell, who is in instructional design and technology at the University of Central Florida, to help brainstorm these ideas. And the first one that kind of came up as overarching were dialogue-based tasks. I was actually a student in her class when she initially gave us this assignment where we actually enter our ideas and receive feedback from ChatGPT. And instead of actually using that feedback, we're analyzing that feedback. Like, is it good? Is it bad? And how are we using it to evaluate our first draft of an assignment? Another is for writing support. So a lot of these ideas that I realized we were brainstorming are writing based, as many assignments tend to be writing based. But the other one that we brainstormed was to use AI to provide writing prompts and brainstorming assistance or revision suggestions. Many of us are already using Grammarly for revision suggestions, which has been AI for a very long time. The newest one that I feel like a lot of people, and students included, are using generative AI for is brainstorming. At the Innovation Summit on Tuesday, for those of you who are there, the keynote speaker said the most important thing he was having trouble with was getting started. And generative AI gives him an opportunity to get started with that and then move from that point on. The next idea we came up with was language practice. So you can assign tasks for language practice. Translation is especially helpful in ESL courses, and explore different writing styles in addition to what you typically would write in. Another huge one is research aid. So using OpenAI to assist students in research, answering questions, or provide explanations on topic. This again is used for evaluative purposes, looking at what you get from the AI and then evaluating it with a rubric, which we'll get into once we're in the document as well. And last but not least, a brainstormed idea was a critical thinking exercise where you could design assignments which prompted students to interact with the OpenAI to evaluate arguments, like we've been talking about, or solve problems collaboratively. So those are just a few very brief ideas. on what you can do to integrate AI into assignments. And I'm going to go head on to the next slide so we can get moving, y'all. Okay. So I'm handing this over to Grace.
Okay, so before we go into our breakout groups, we wanted to give you guys another opportunity to tell us a little bit more about how you're feeling. So please go ahead and scan the QR code that you see on the screen there, or go over to slido.com to answer this prompt. We would like you to take a moment to share one word that encompasses your overall feelings towards generative AI integration. Good. That's good. Curious. Literacy, super important one. Dubious and cautious, complex. We're really getting a lot of diverse responses here, all over, running the gamut from excited to cautious and dubious.
I really want to pair all of these words to our initial robots.
I don't know about you all, but I like every word that has popped onto the screen. I'm like, yeah, I feel that way too. Yeah, I feel that way too. There's so many conflicting thoughts and feelings that I've felt that I'm seeing here on the screen. Too fast. That's a tricky one. Got to be on top of this stuff every day, or you're just behind so quickly. All right, so we're going to move on to the AI potluck component of our session. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take about 20 minutes to break out into a few breakout rooms. And in the rooms, we're just going to have roundtable discussions that are pretty open-ended. We love to hear from you what your institutions are doing as far as guidelines and policies and practices around generative AI, any personal ideas that you have, or things that you think we should be talking about or thinking about, or any other thoughts that you have around generative AI. This is super open-ended. And we also invite you to contribute to our shared document. You can see there's a link there on the screen. I can also, okay, thank you, Sue. Sue also put it in the chat. So I think we are ready, Sue, to go to rooms. Okay. See you there.
All right. See you guys soon.
Hello, if you're just entering the room, they have gone into small breakout rooms. You are more than welcome to go to the breakout room and select one of the 3 rooms. If I can be of any assistance to get you in there, please let me know. What happened? You gotta go into the office? Oh, good luck. Hey, Christy, they're in breakout rooms, so I'm gonna just place you in one of the breakout rooms if that's okay.
Perfect, thank you. I was in one and then I turned my camera on and it kicked me out.
Aw, which one do you remember which one you were in?
Oh boy, no, I don't.
All right, I'm gonna just randomly, maybe we'll be lucky.
Okay, thank you.
You are so welcome. Hi, Leota. Were you in a breakout room? Do you need me to assign you to one?
Sorry, I was coming in from a meeting. Is it a choose your own breakout room?
Well, they were assigned, but at this it was randomly assigned, so there wasn't really one to pick. So I think you can go into any one, and it's just general discussions.
Okay. You're gonna have to send me. I don't see an option to send myself.
Alrighty, I will see you afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We are slowly popping in from the breakout rooms. Just give us a second. Thank you.
I think I might have sent my group back too early. Now everyone's back.
Everyone's coming back in 20 seconds, whether they like it or not.
Thank you, Sue.
So now we're at 15, not too much longer. My pleasure.
Cool
The
stuff.
countdown makes me nervous.
Yeah, I'm not even like doing the session and the countdown's making me nervous.
We were just conditioned to see that thing and expect ominous doom,
I guess so.
which is sort of the opposite of what we were trying to inspire from this session.
All right. And on my end, everybody is out of the breakout rooms.
Awesome. So we have, what, 5 more minutes? Is that correct, Sue?
5 more minutes. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I apologize. Can everybody see my screen okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So kind of as a pre and post test, we now invite a very similar question. Share a word or words that encompass your overall feelings towards generative AI integration after being part of the group. Has it improved? Does it feel the same? And I'm going to share mine as well. In just a second.
Ooh, we have Kathy words.
Oh, I was muted, but I saw not alone, and I was like,
There's something
absolutely.
incredibly ironic about being muted in a Zoom room, talking about being not alone.
That was
Sorry.
not lost on me. Thank you for pointing it out.
I
Also
love still complex,
encouraged.
but all in collaboration. Fabulous. Charlotte, I think maybe we can leave this up and we can share some of these out later, but we're running out of time. So if we could move on to, I just like to open this up to the group. And I think those words are giving us some sense. From the small group, I'd love to hear either in the chat or if you want to come off mic, what surprised you the most? I think for me and my group, we had really similar outlooks. No one feels like an expert. Everyone's a little bit freaked out by that because we like to know things. And there's just a lot of opportunity to share and grow in this together. Willingness to collaborate in the chat.
And if I could share too, Rebecca, I think the biggest thing I noticed, it was a year ago at TOPkit last year when Lily and Jim gave their talk about AI, and the mood a year ago was so worried and anxious and overly negative. It's really nice to see now that everybody feels much more optimistic and willing to collaborate and work together.
Speaking of collaboration, one thing that my group talked about a good bit was opportunities for collaboration between faculty and students and coming to agreement on AI policies in the classroom, or whether that's, working on assignment guidelines or rubric together or something like that. So I thought that was interesting.
A lot of really fun things in the chat. Talking about prompting, this is just a way of figuring out how to make these tools work for us. The better the prompts, the better the responses.
And I wanted to share, if I could, on that exact note with the prompting, a colleague who works at the University of Florida shared a cookbook that I believe it was College of Pharmacy, correct me if I'm wrong, or medicine. It's in the shared document with how to come up with good prompts. So please check that out, and it's really awesome.
And I think my personal takeaway for this, and this is coming back to yesterday's keynote panel session, which is just the element of playfulness that's surrounding all of this is really appealing for me. Just even a cookbook, right? How often do we get to throw a cookbook at instructional design work, just as my own personal? I love that part of the collaborative nature here is just everyone is sort of having fun with this. Back to our little robots sharing a very long piece of spaghetti that may or may not be a fork. It looks like we've got maybe 1 minute left. If we could hit that last slide, Shirley. And this is just contact information. The collaboration here is something we'd really like to continue. If someone could put that link to that shared document into the chat one more time, we'd love for this to keep living, to disseminate some of these resources out to the larger TOPkit community as these are developing. Please feel free to add your names wherever you might like, so we can keep the attribution correct. And as we mentioned, the images here were generated via Microsoft Copilot, which is using DALL-E 3. It's not very good at making a robot sharing a piece of spaghetti like it was in Lady and the Tramp, but we're trying. And that's probably on me. I need to improve my prompt generation to facilitate that correct level of whimsy.
Can we make a prompt that allows it to do fingers correctly, is my real question.
I mean, are the fingers made of noodles? Because that might change the equation. And I think that takes us right to the end. So thank you, everyone. This is fun.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all three
Thank you.
for your presentation, and congratulations on Best in Track. It was exciting to be in this room as a moderator. Let me go ahead. I think I posted it, but just in case, I will share. The game code for this session is sharing_practices. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, please go ahead and do that now. And then we are going to be working right into a 15-minute break. So I'm sure the presenters will stick around if you had a couple questions. But otherwise, feel free to go ahead and get up, stretch, get a little break, and we will see you back here in 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Wow, that did not feel like 45 minutes to me at all.
Right.
That's
Judith, have you your hand up?